if Russia nukes Ukraine, most people won't die from the bomb, but they will die from With the recent victories from Ukraine in the east, a new concern has emerged that Russia will deploy a nuclear weapon against them. It brings to mind an old saying that you should be most afraid of a wounded animal. Well, the bear has been wounded, and quite severely, and it may be considering lashing out with whatever claws it has left. So, if it were to do that, what would it use? Because of the speculative nature of the topic in this video, I must say that everything in this video is strictly my own opinion, using the latest information I can find. My focus in nuclear engineering was nuclear nonproliferation, a directly related topic. There are three categories of nuclear weapons. The first is the type of nuclear weapon everybody tends to think about, strategic. These weapons are designed to be used against large population centers, or anything that you really want gone from the face of the world. And they're big, with modern strategic weapons being in the range of 10 warheads per missile at 1 megaton each, or a total yield of 666 times that of Little Boy, the bomb that devastated Hiroshima. These strategic weapons can come from any part of the nuclear triad. If you don't know, this triad is the cornerstone of nuclear weapon deployment, where the nuclear forces of a country are split into three parts: air, silo, and subbase. This is done so that no single strike can completely eliminate your ability to retaliate. On the other hand, tactical nuclear weapons are smaller than their strategic brethren. Typically, they're in the low tens of kilotons, and these weapons are designed to be used against military targets, instead of directly attacking cities. Just imagine needing to kill everybody within a 2-kilometer circle. This is easily done with a small nuclear weapon. So what separates a strategic versus a tactical nuke? Is it the size? Deployment method? For all practical terms, no. The only real difference is the target. A country could just as easily use a strategic bomb to destroy a fleet of ships as it could a city, assuming the delivery system could hit them. Or vice versa, a small tactical bomb could be used to tear out the heart of a city, such as a capital of a country. And these newer tactical bombs have a similar yield to those used on Hiroshima and Nagasaki, so by no means are they small. We have defined strategic and tactical nukes. However, I mentioned that there are three types that we need to be concerned about. The last, the most forgotten type, is the micro-nukes. There are also suitcase nukes, or special atomic demolition munitions, or SADMs. The micro-nukes are unique among nuclear weapons because their yield is so small that some conventional bombs approach their explosive capabilities. If you'd like to learn more about them, see the last video I made here. But in short, these weapons are small enough to be carried into the field, set up, and left underwater for days, and then detonated by a single person. These weapons have been made in large quantities by both the US and the former USSR. However, after the fall of the USSR, General Lebed, the former secretary for the Russian Security Council, could only locate 48 out of their 132 suitcase nukes. So, Russia has all three of these options, assuming that they kept up their suitcase nukes. So, which one would they choose to use to deploy? Well, let's play out these scenarios and then see what's most likely. If Russia decided to strike Ukraine with a strategic nuke, it would only make sense to strike a major city. This would be an unconscionable action on the worldwide stage, and further isolate them from anybody else that hasn't already denounced their actions. And the world would wind up putting tremendous amounts of pressure on China, Iran, North Korea to completely shun and turn their backs on Russia. And it can even prompt a more active role from NATO or non-NATO countries to conceivably destroy any remaining infrastructure that links Russia to the rest of the world. Russia already knows that it's never going to fulfill any natural gas to Europe. That's why Nord Stream is no more. However, imagine destroying any pipeline that links Russia with Asia. A single strike with a 1 megaton nuclear warhead would result in over 600,000 deaths and 1 million injuries in Kyiv alone. Even Putin knows he couldn't get away with a strike like that. On the other hand, if Russia decided to use a tactical nuke like the media fears, it would be most likely used in one of two ways: destroying a high-value target or to cover a retreat. The former would be really hard to explain away on the world stage, because it would have to be within Ukrainian territory and not contested territory. Any of these strikes would come with severe secondary civilian casualties. However, a small tactical nuke used in a retreating scenario is a lot more feasible, because in this scenario, that nuke would be used to either punch a hole in the Ukrainian attack or to be used behind the retreating forces as a screen. In either case, this strike would be within Russian-claimed territory, and they would be able to loosely justify it to their people. However, on the world stage, everybody would know about it. But there is one more, even scarier scenario. One where if Russia nukes Ukraine, most people won't die from the bomb, but they will die from a flood. One of the original use cases for a SADM was to blow up infrastructure, such as bridges or dams. And as we've seen throughout history, the destruction of a dam can result in severe loss of life because of flooding or land loss. There are a few dams that could be targeted by the special forces carrying one of these weapons. And I apologize for my pronunciation of the name, but the Srendensko-Proskaya or the Dnieper Reservoir could be targeted. But the biggest target I see is the Kharkova Dam. The complete destruction of this dam would have massive consequences for Kherson or anything along that river. If Russia did decide to use a SADM, how would they pull it off? Well, among their own people, it would be very easy. Because of the size of the weapon, they could easily claim that Ukraine bombed that dam and destroyed it in an attempt to attack the Russian forces. However, on the world stage, it is possible to detect a nuclear detonation. There are three main remote detection methods. The first is the detection of the energy of the blast. This occurs because nuclear weapons emit a very unique double peak energy signature. This is detectable from space, assuming the blast is visible. Also, we could try to detect the EMP from the blast, but both of these scale with the size of the bomb, and if the bomb is placed at the base of a dam underwater, it may be hard to identify it in this way. Another option is to sample the air for short-lived radioactive elements from the nuclear blast. These can be picked up in the air by a plane flying downwind. The particulates are trapped into an air filter and is sent through a special radiation detector, which is very sensitive, in an area with very low background radiation to determine if it was a conventional or nuclear detonation. The issue with this method is it requires sampling the air downwind of the blast, and micro-nukes have a very small size, which means less material to sample, all while this is in an active war zone. The last method is through seismic detectors. By having a network of these detectors, it is possible not only to determine if the ground movement was caused by an earthquake or a nuclear explosion. However, the smaller the weapon, the harder it is to determine whether or not this was nuclear. This means that the only surefire way to know if Russia used a SADM would be to conduct an on-site assay of the damage and look for any radioactivity that would be corresponding with the nuclear blast. This takes time though, And Russia can use this time for spin control, because even if they are caught, they could easily claim that this is one of their missing suitcase nukes that got left in Ukraine at the end of the USSR. Or they can attempt to put blame on Ukraine or the West for political blackmail. And most importantly for them, every day that passes from the detonation of these weapons, it is more likely they'll get away with it from just sheer apathy. With the possibility of a tactical nuke covering a retreat, or a SADM destroying infrastructure, it is clear that they could use either, but a SADM is a lot more likely. A strategic nuke is unfeasible, and using a tactical nuke would leave them caught red-handed. But with a SADM, they might just think that they could get away with it, or at the very least, blame it on Ukraine. So, is a strike inevitable? No. Because using one of these weapons won't fundamentally change anything on the battlefield, with the exception of causing a humanitarian crisis. At best, it might pull some of the Ukrainian forces off of the front lines to help civilians, but short of strategic warfare, a single strike won't change the calculus. Ultimately, that's the reason why I don't think Russia will use one. It doesn't gain them enough value for its cost, specifically political cost. But if they do go through with it, what you can do is make sure everybody knows about it, and everybody remembers it, so that they can truly realize its political cost. And what you can do for me now is to share this video with as many people as you can. This is a nano channel, so without you sharing and liking it, it won't be seen by any of those that are affected by this last option available.